Okay, it's time to talk about 2073. Now, this film is getting a lot of views now on, I believe, Max. And I'm going to have to say, if you watch this film, you need to be prepared for one word: preachy. Now, I'm not going to say that this film is bad because of that. I actually believe that this film has a definite message to it, and this message is definitely in your face. Now, here's the thing. I have mixed feelings about this film. I don't think this film is bad. I just think that it's trying to do something, and it's so obvious about what it's trying to do that it feels like, Anyway, the title is, okay, first of all, if you are looking at this film and you think it's going to be one of those dystopian films that takes place in one of those dark futures, you're half right. And I'm going to explain what I mean by that. So I kind of went into this film thinking it was going to be something like that. This film is far more documentary than it is science fiction. I don't even feel right even classifying it as science fiction. I feel like it is going for a complete documentary. And what it's essentially trying to do is what I believe Isaac Asimov called psychohistory, where essentially you look at the history of the past, you look at what people tend to do, and you try and figure out where is this leading to. And 2073 does this in such a way that, let's put it this way, by the time we reach the real 2073, I hope it is nothing like this. And let me explain what I mean by that. You know how a lot of science fiction films have like a number in the title, like 1984? Trying to think of other films that have this. There was actually, I think, like this other film that came out like a few years ago called 2025, which is the year we're in now, which was about which is a Christian film that dealt with a future that honestly we're just not in really. And then there was I think there was a film called 2046 or something like that. I think there was an Asian film or something like that. I probably should have researched this. I'm actually glad I kind of looked up this film and read a little bit about it before I did this rant, because I learned a lot of things about it. First of all, I'll try and explain the premise of this film. It starts out with a character who essentially lives in 2073 and the world has gone completely to pot. And it's very much implied that essentially billionaires essentially took over. They basically just let the world to rot while they live up in their very much high towers that are all like, they use hydroponics to get good food and stuff like that. I mean, actually, okay, first of all, I will have to say that for a film that should be a documentary, this has a lot more special effects than most documentaries. I'll give it that. And I kind of went like, okay, I thought maybe that's what you're going for. And yeah, this film is, I don't think this film is very confused as far as what it's going for, as far as its message is concerned. I think it's confused as far as like how you should really market this film. And that's, I think, is kind of the worst part about it, is that I don't think the worst part about this film is the film itself. I think the worst part of that is how this film could be perceived by its intended or unintended audience. And it's sort of weird that we live in a world where I'm really thinking about these things more than thinking about what the actual film is trying to say. So anyway, this main character, who doesn't have a name, I think she just refers to herself as Ghost, is talking about how how the world is really bad, but she's sort of like telling us in our present, so her past, our present, how, actually, you know what, I don't really think she gives any advice as far as how this can be changed, honestly. I think the whole thing, this thing isn't about the mirror and the light. This is a theory that I learned in college about how some books or movies, they tend to show a mirror as far as like what society is, and some of them will show a mirror and a light. In other words, they'll show, okay, here's what it is, and here's what we can do to change it. The mirror and light theory. 2073 is basically showing us our now, our present. And it's using a lot of news footage. And it's showing really bad situations happening all over the world, not just in, and one of the things I did like about this film is it did show places other than America as far as like where all this bad stuff is happening. And basically, here's the thing. It's not really stuff that I haven't quite figured out yet, but I think that what basically the purpose of this film is to basically realize what the next step is probably going to be. Now, I actually kind of read a bit about this, and from what I read, apparently this was sort of inspired by a 1962 film I've never heard of called Le Jetée, a French film, where a time traveler goes back to 1962 in an attempt to warn the world about how bad things are going to get and what they can do to prevent it. I actually kind of like plots like that. X-Men Days of Future Past kind of used that sort of premise and stuff like that. Although this is really trying to alter our reality. And here's the thing. There's not really much here that I have to say is new information. Like they show how billionaires are like owning everything, and pretty soon there's going to be a huge difference between the very, very rich and the very, very poor. And it's like, and here's the thing. Now, somebody who I think could be categorized by middle class, yeah, I have been seeing this. And I think very soon that middle class is going to get drop down pretty lower, and yeah, that scares the living life out of me. And I'm not really certain what I can do. I mean, because I don't really want to start palling around with rich people or super billionaire 1% people just so I can be at the top and be protected against that. Oh yes, there is something in 2073 that is called The Event, and I'm not really certain what this event is, but apparently just they show like bad stuff happening, and by bad stuff, that I mean they're talking natural disasters, they're talking police riots, all kinds of things, and they just basically show, yeah, and then the rich decided they were going to go up to live in their ivory towers, and we were just going to be down here in these complete utter slumlords, which is at the surface of the world. And there's implication by what they show in footage, and they use like real life footage. They show like Jeff Bezos talking about his like, you know, those kind of those worlds he wants to build in space or something like that. And yeah, I have to admit, as I watched this week, I mean, Katy Perry and those other female ladies who got shot into space and came back, and I have to admit it's probably not as inspirational as they would like you to think. Because basically, it's just basically showing the billionaires can afford to take these trips, while we can't even afford to go on a good vacation every once in a while. I just kind of feel like there is so much in this film that I felt like has been said before. Does it need to be repeated? I would have to say, yeah. I'm not really certain. I don't really think that this is a decent format for this, and I don't want to show like I am hating this film. I don't hate this film. I don't know. It's sort of like, I guess this is kind of I don't want to be a blame the messenger type person, because I think the message of this film is very good as far as what it's trying to say. But if you go into this thing thinking it's going to be one thing, you are going to be completely surprised. One thing that surprised me, as I just finished looking this up, is that the main character of this story is played by Samantha Morton. And Samantha Morton is very famous for playing a certain role in a film called Minority Report. If you haven't seen Minority Report, it's one of my favorite films. It's a Steven Spielberg film that takes place in the future, but not too distant future. I think it's either 2040, I think it's 2056 or something like that. It's a year that I'm probably going to actually see in my lifetime. But in that film, she plays a precog, a character who is supposed to see the future and prevent murders from happening. Within the context of this film, it is seen she is being used in a very bad way. And so I don't know how I feel about this film, which has actually I swear, a few seconds where I went like, okay, that is a shot from Minority Report. And the scattered news footage that they keep showing in here as evidence of their thing is just that. It is so scattered that when I saw the shot from Minority Report, I said like, hey, that's from Minority Report, okay? That's not real. And you're just kind of throwing in all these things here to try and make a point here. So yeah, that's kind of my general feelings about 2073.